It's Monday, so we would normally do the comments piece today, but there has been a pretty big piece of news. Today, April 8th, 2013, Margaret Thatcher died. She was 87 years old. So why is this woman, an incredibly controversial Prime Minister from 1979 to 1990, so important? And why is she so divisive? Well, Margaret Thatcher was probably one of the most important world leaders in modern history. So here at Truth Loader, we thought we'd take a look at why you should still care about her legacy.
Margaret Thatcher helped to pull the UK out of economic misery in the 1970s. At the time, Britain was known as the sick man of Europe. Her government reformed British industry, leading to riots in mining communities which faced ruin and many of which are still struggling today. But she brought the good times to the financial sector by cutting taxes and cutting spending on public services. Money began flooding into London, becoming one of the world's financial powerhouses, and helped to create the culture of greed in the city. And we know where that ended. 2 decades later, Tony Blair and Gordon Brown extended Thatcher's policies beyond anything she'd put in place, and along came the credit crunch. The good times were exposed as a fragile myth, and Britain was once again left in an economic mess. Whether you blame New Labour for their part or Margaret Thatcher for getting the ball rolling is largely down to your personal politics, but whatever your thoughts, the effects of those policies are indirectly the reason we're facing cuts again today.
The Falkland Islands is a tiny landmass off the coast of Argentina. It's ruled by the UK but has always been claimed by the South American country. And in 1982, Argentina invaded and occupied the Falklands. Despite military experts saying it couldn't be done, Thatcher's government sent a powerful force of ships, planes and troops to the Falklands, and they reclaimed the island in just over 2 months. But it was all at the cost of hundreds of lives and thousands who were injured. In fact, many of the veterans of the Falklands War since killed themselves, it's argued, from the psychological stress of the conflict. But the big effect was on the Cold War. The world, and especially the USSR, were shocked to see an economically declining Britain send a powerful force halfway around the world to win a fight against a powerful enemy in its own backyard. The victory actually caused some dialogue between the two parties and helped to end the Cold War. And it's one of the reasons why Britain still spends so much on maintaining a powerful navy and military today.
Section 28 was an amendment to the 1988 Local Government Act which forbade local authorities from promoting homosexuality. This meant that any school funded by the government was not allowed to teach children that homosexual relationships were an acceptable form of family relationships. It was the first piece of new anti-gay legislation to be introduced into the UK in more than a century, and although it was actually introduced by a Conservative backbencher rather than Margaret Thatcher herself, it came off of the back of a speech Thatcher gave in which he complained that children who needed to be taught traditional moral values were instead being taught what she called to have the inalienable right to be gay. The hugely unpopular clause has now been removed from British law, but the public's response is still seen as the largest gay protest movement the UK has ever seen, and to some it will go down in history as the UK gay community's Stonewall movement. Gay rights is now viewed as a priority issue by the British government, with Prime Minister David Cameron currently trying to legalise gay marriage. Well, that's it for this special Truth Loader programme on Margaret Thatcher, but we'll be back tomorrow with our usual Monday's comments piece, but this time on Tuesday. If you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure to check out this other great content that's on my left.